Welcome friends to another r/entitled parents video. You know what the least entitled thing you could do is? To hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by ULFR. Ma'am, your child is ill. That's not allergies. The floof insisted we go to the park today, just like every other day. But on this fine day, there were around 6 dogs in the all-dog side with around 10 people and 1 child, somewhere between 6 and 8. I happen to think this is profoundly irresponsible to do, as there's dogs moving around at max speed who weigh twice as much as the kid, but that's not my circus. Then I noticed the little girl was playing with a pail and shovel in the dog park sand. I realize children by default are walking plague vectors, but that's above and beyond that particular call of duty. My floof is less concerned with hygiene and likes kids, so he ran over to say hello. He got a face full of sand for his trouble. While this was not ideal, I didn't particularly care. He's an unrepentant back kicker after doing his business, and turnabout is fair play in my humble opinion. I still walked over to referee because one face full of sand was enough. Then I got close enough to the kid to see her eyes. They were bright pink with a lovely yellow crusty ring along her eyelids. Nope. Anyone who's given oral antibiotics to a dog who considers any sort of pill to be poison will understand how little I wanted my floof to get conjunctivitis. I called him over and we went through the gate into the empty small dog area. This did not please the little girl, who ran over to cry to mommy about not being able to get to the fluffy dog. So mommy comes over and goes to open the gate to let her little girl in with us. "Excuse me ma'am, please don't open that gate. Your daughter is sick and I don't want my dog to get sick." She says, "What do you mean she's sick? She's got allergies, she's fine." I say, "I understand she might feel fine, but that's not allergies. That's pink eye. Please do not let her over here." The mom found this hilarious and walked away from the gate. As she's walking back to the man she was talking with, she shouts, "Hey, man's name, this guy thinks girl's name has pink eye." She looks at her daughter, who's rubbing both of her eyes with balled up hands. "Hey, girl's name, you feel sick?" The little girl affirms she feels fine. One at a time, other people mosey past the little girl close enough to see her in detail, then beeline for the gate to the small dog side, summoning their fluffy friends. All pretense was lost when a massive Malamute named Yogi came into the small dog area. The last person in the all dog area was a very nice older lady, looked like someone's grandma. She walked over to the little girl and gives her a big smile and asks if she can see something really quickly. The little girl agrees and the grandma gently grabs her chin and tilts her head back a little to get a better look. Grandma stands up and thanks the little girl for being such an angel, and then she walks over to the mother and says, "I was a nurse for 25 years. Your daughter is sick and might go blind if she doesn't see a doctor." Then she summons her schnoodle named Grumpy, who looks like a grumpy old man but is the sweetest dog ever, and they join the rest of us for frolicking. Once Grandma joins us in the small dog area, it's just the woman, the man, the little kid, and their cute beagle pupper in the all dog area. I'd like to say they took the hint and left with dignity, but there was a whole tantrum about how the girl's fine and we're all being jerks. The parting shot from the mother, who was being ignored, was to me, "I hope you're freaking happy, you just ruined her whole day." If you saw a kid being neglected like this in a public place that probably wasn't going to be around there for much longer, do you think it would still be worth anonymously contacting CPS to see if they could do anything about the situation? Or do you think that it still remains to be the parent's responsibility regardless? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Our next story is by Imaginary Broccoli 6. Karen insists her child swims in the pool, but it's not though. So obligatory backstory, my stepdad's side of the family wanted to see where my mom grew up, and it so happens that my stepdad's bio son lives in such an area, so they all went. I didn't go because I have work, so just my stepdad, mom, and entitled aunt and kid. So they all arrived and all is well, until kid noticed a big pool. She immediately runs towards it, which was then stopped by my mom. Mom says, "Careful kid, that pool is not just any pool, it's a..." Entitled aunt cuts her off. "Why can't she go into the pool? It's harmless." Stepdad says, "Entitled aunt, this is mom's childhood home. Why are you arguing with her?" Entitled aunt says, "This pool is harmless. She just doesn't want anyone in her private pool because she's a typical rich snob." My mom grew up poor, but eventually the fam got rich in a way. Mom started to realize that she can't get any word in, so to prove her point about the pool, she picked up a rock and threw it in. Then alligators popped out and attacked the rock, splashing around and such. Entitled Aunt and Kid were shocked to the core with what they just saw, and Mom broke the silence and said, "Still wanna swim? Be my guest." This was just this morning. OP actually attached a video of the gators to this post, and the water is this murky green, just full of algae, puke-colored waste pit. So if this story is true, I don't even understand how anybody thought the water would be good enough for a kid to swim in to begin with, let alone the fact that there are literally raging alligators inside there. This next story is by Ghost Things, entitled Mom Acts Like I'm 14. I'm 20 years old and have a boyfriend. We're both in college. My mom is guilty of creating rules and lying about the reason. First, she gave me a midnight curfew just because you always wake me up when you come home, so it's just courteous to me to get in early. That makes sense, so when she was gone on business trips, I would hang out till early hours, cause I wouldn't wake her up when I got home. When she found out about this, I was never hiding it in the first place. She was livid, but I explained that I followed the curfew normally out of politeness. But when she's gone, there's no reason for it. I'm an adult with a job and a successful life who's never really gotten into trouble, and I only live at home because she asked me to. She goes on so many trips. She's gone 2 to 3 nights a week and needs someone to take care of the house. So I don't think she gets to pull the my house, my rules to that extent, since I don't even want to live in that house. The thing that she's pulling now is insane. Now that I have a boyfriend, she has declared no boys while she's gone on trips. While annoyed at my 24-year-old boyfriend being called a boy like we're teenagers, I agreed that no men will enter her house while she's gone. She has a right to who will enter her house. No, she clarified, he can't come over, we can't go on dates, we can't go on walks, drives, or go to his place at all when she's gone. Remember, she's gone 3 nights of the week, so half the week I'm forbidden from going anywhere with men. Heck no, I did it anyways. Now she's upset, but what's she gonna do? Take my phone I bought? The car I've paid off? Kick me out? Please do. The mom in this story is making ridiculous rules and they have no ground to bargain on to begin with. OP is a fully grown adult with their own lives and their own responsibilities and their own wishes. That alone already negates all the stuff this mom's demanding of her, let alone the fact that OP's staying with her because the mom wants them to. All I can say is behavior like that, it seems to keep growing worse and worse with the demands. I would say you might want to consider getting out of there sometime soon probably. This next story is by Kanana. My entitled dad thinks he can just come back in my life whenever he pleases. This is more of an event than anything. So me and my dad had a huge falling out a little less than a year ago. It was ugly. I had a panic attack in front of him and he thought I was faking it for the attention. I snapped, said and did some pretty awful things and left. Since then we only had one contact, this summer when I wrote him asking if he wanted to talk about what happened, and he responded with, "Stay away from me." Fast forward to last week, he calls me out of the blue. He doesn't acknowledge what happened, he just tried to act like nothing's wrong, asking me what I'm cooking for dinner and such. I told him very respectfully that I'm here if he wants to address what happened between us, but I won't go back to the way things were before. He told me to lighten up and then hung up on me. I usually like children, now I'm not so sure I want any. OP deserves a lot of credit. If I was in OP's shoes, I have a bad habit of allowing things to get swept under the rug. So I feel like maybe I would be the one to just ignore all that stuff and acknowledge whatever they were talking about. But the fact that OP did not do this and said, if they want to talk about what happened, okay, but I'm not going to just ignore it and go back to talking about what's for dinner. And I think that takes a lot of bravery and patience to do that. Our next story is by Ian Hilliard, entitled Mother Ruins a Wall on a House I'm Working On and Tries to Blame It on Me. There's this event in my church called Work Camp, and every year a bunch of churches full of teenagers go to a location and help the people living there renovate their house. It's pretty much just free child labor, but it's for God or something, so it's okay. This year was my first and last, and I was honestly quite excited and am disappointed with how it went. So when I got to work camp, the house job I was given was an easy paint job. The entitled mother was surprisingly nice, like most at first from what I've seen, and welcomed me and my group, around 4 kids consisting of 12 to 13-year-olds and 1 adult leader, to the home we'd be working on. We learned what we needed to do was a simple paint job and started getting materials immediately. The next couple of days, Monday to Wednesday, we worked on our house with no problems as her kids were somewhere else. Cue in Thursday. Thursday, her kids come back to the house and were crazy. If I'm to be completely honest though, her kids were probably the most calm on this day. My group tried to get everything done, but it was heck with all these kids running around. In about 5 hours, 1 to 2 hours above when we were supposed to be done, we finally finished. We told entitled mother not to touch the walls as they were drying, and I tell our kids to not do it as well. She said that wouldn't be a problem and ended up telling us that our kids would be somewhere tomorrow, so nothing bad should happen. The next day started normal. I woke up and went to the house I was working at. I assumed what would happen is that we'd finish up and be done for the day and I can finally go home. What ended up happening was the complete opposite. Group leader says, "Hi entitled mother, how are you today?" Entitled mother chimes in, "My freaking walls are ruined." The group leader, obviously confused, says, "I'm sorry, what?" She says, "My walls are ruined." The group leader asks, "I'm sorry, could you please explain what you mean by that?" Entitled mother, a little calmer but still pretty crazy, says, "Someone in your group touched my freaking walls and there's fingerprints and handprints all over them." Our group went in to investigate the issue and saw that all were true. The thing was that all of this had to have happened yesterday after we left, as everything was perfect prior, and we were wearing those plastic gloves when we were at our house to avoid this issue. Group leader says, "OP, take your group outside and wait there. I have to resolve this issue." I say, okay. I was quite confused at what was happening in the moment, but still decided to go ahead anyways and do what my group leader said to do. Anyways, outside, my friends and I just talked for around half an hour and then got the news. Group leader says, "Okay, so apparently one of you supposedly touched the walls, and entitled mother is demanding to know who." We all just kind of didn't say anything, as no one did anything, and our group leader knew as well what was happening. The group leader says, "Well then, I guess if no one comes clean, the entitled mother won't let us finish her house, and we got to leave then." The entitled mother says, "What? I demand that they come back and clean this house up." Starts sobbing for no reason after a minute of silence and says, "Okay, I'm sorry, I overreacted, I didn't mean to, I'm sorry, please help, I'm sorry." The group leader says, "I'm sorry, but later today, some of the other group leaders will come and clean the house for you." She says, "What? I'm not letting a stranger into my home." We were quite confused as we were pretty much strangers, but it's an entitled mother, so I don't know what to say about this. Group leader annoyed says, "This is what's going to happen. I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do about it." We just left after that as she kept yelling and got Dairy Queen. We then learned she or her kids touched the walls and tried to blame it on us. Worst part is that I was 12 or 13 at this time. Imagine going off on a bunch of 12-year-olds, excluding our group leader, who just painted your house for free. This was my final experience there and I just gave up with work camp as a whole. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but this definitely seems like a bunch of 12 to 13-year-olds going around painting houses for free. I'm really not sure what lessons the kids are learning here besides, I don't know, how to paint a house and how to get screwed over not getting paid. And our final story of the day is by LA Dodgers fans, entitled "Mom Tries to Get Lifeguard Fired." This story happened over 2 years ago and it's still mind-boggling. When I was in high school, I worked a summer job as a lifeguard. Over the years, I've dealt with some pretty good entitled parents who thought that the rules didn't apply to them and their children, and that they could bully me because I was a teenager. This story in particular didn't happen to me, but I was present for it. Also some information, I was assistant manager of the lifeguards at that time. I was in charge of the lifeguards that day because my manager was out of town. Now on to the story. It's the middle of a Thursday afternoon. I'm not on stand at the moment. At this point, I'm just walking around and cleaning things around the pool when I walk by the diving area. So for some context, our pool lets patrons swim in the deep end only if no one is going off the diving board. If someone steps up, then the swimmers in the deep end have to clear out. A group of kids are playing a game of tag in the deep end when a patron steps up to the diving board. Everyone immediately exits the deep end except for one 15-year-old girl. She was on the opposite side of the deep end from the diving board and decided to swim all the way across, going right in front of the diving board. When she surfaces, the lifeguard reminds her of the rule and asks her not to do it again. As the girl walks over to her friends, she flips off the lifeguard and tells her to leave her the freak alone. At this point, I was about to step in until the lifeguard calmly told her that if she continues to behave in this way, then she wouldn't be allowed in the pool for the rest of the day. After seeing this, I very quickly realized that the lifeguard was more than capable of handling herself in this situation. A few hours later, the lifeguard's back at the deep end, and the same girl swims right in front of the diving board while someone's going off it. The lifeguard again tells her not to swim in front of the diving board when it's being used. At this point, the girl says to her friends right in front of the lifeguard, "This witch won't leave me alone." At this point, the lifeguard tells her to get out of the pool and that she's done for the day. The girl gets out of the pool and runs to her mom and is bawling. She's going on about how the lifeguard's targeting her. At this point, entitled mother steps in. She demands to see the manager. The lifeguard points me out to entitled mother. Entitled mother walks up to me and asks if I'm the manager. I tell her that I'm the assistant manager, but right now I'm the acting manager because our manager's on vacation. Entitled mother goes on about how her daughter's being singled out by the lifeguard. I tell her that this isn't true since I watched the whole thing go down. I tell her that her daughter was warned to stop behaving in this manner, but she continued. She demanded that I have the lifeguard apologize for bullying her daughter. I tell her that I'm not going to make an employee apologize for doing their job. At this point, entitled mother is furious. She demands to see the owner of the pool. I go and find the owner in his office and explain the situation. He comes outside and entitled mother demands that he fire the lifeguard. Owner waits for her to finish and then asks if she wants him to check the security cameras. She happily agrees. At this point, entitled mother has a smug look on her face, and the daughter is white as a ghost as she knows she's about to be exposed. Owner asks me what time the incidents took place. I tell him the first one was around 1:40 and the second one was around 3:45. He finds both interactions and shows entitled mother that her daughter was clearly lying. At this point, entitled mother isn't backing down. She demands that he fire the lifeguard for making her daughter cry. She says that if the lifeguard isn't gone by Monday, she's going to cancel her membership to the pool. Owner says that he's not going to fire her, and he reminds her that she already had paid for her membership for this summer and that it's non-refundable. Entitled mother then storms off. Monday comes around, and that same lifeguard was working an 8-hour shift that day. Entitled mother stayed at the pool all day just to see if the owner would fire her. Spoiler alert, he didn't fire her. After Monday, entitled mother and her daughter still came to the pool for the rest of the summer. The next summer, that lifeguard was the head manager of the lifeguards at the pool. Apparently, entitled mother and her daughter still belong to the pool. You gotta appreciate these days how security cameras save so many people's jobs, careers, and oftentimes prove that narcissistic lying people can't just BS their way through a situation because there's visible proof. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.